Oh, that's wrong. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay. I just opened the wrong style of page. So,
Okay.
all right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio.
Oh,
That's wrong. Hold
Uh-oh. Oh no.
on. No, it's
There's
okay.
shenanigans afoot.
No, it's okay. I got it. It's
All
just
right, good.
it's Rumble playing
Oh, I see.
the
Oh,
stream.
it got you this time.
Yeah,
It's usually
it
my error.
yeah, it can happen on occasion, but it's all right. This is not that
This
big
is
of a
pretty,
deal. All this is
yeah.
water off my ass or whatever. Not worried about it. So,
Pennies off your duck.
yes. So anyway, yes. So hello everybody, welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame. I decided it would be a maintaining frame. Number 34, harangue men to unlock your priestess power as a priestess. So, I remember when all of this kind of wooey, like witchy stuff wasn't directed at priestesses, it was directed at goddesses. Did something happen to the goddesses? Like I thought that there was supposed to be an inner goddess that's being brought out, but I
Well,
guess
okay. You know, the real switch that bothered me is from actually recognizing things like the sacred masculine to just condemning it,
yeah, well,
or with patriarchy and nonsense like that.
uh-huh.
That so the woo, I have to say I appreciate the crystal, the women with the crystals more since our Lady Koof came to town, because they seem to be one axis of the pushback against certain things. But
Yeah.
um
Well, I don't know if
having
these women are those women.
mm,
Maybe that's why they're priestesses and not
yeah,
goddesses.
they're not worshiping goddesses. Well,
Yeah.
because priestesses, they get to be sort of goddess like, right?
I guess they do.
It's more
They
about the individual's power, like the
yeah.
woman, and how can they all be priestesses?
Well, that's a good question. Again, we're about to get really enlightened, guys. So I hope you have your
Prepare your third
patchouli
eye.
and your mushrooms or whatever it is that you use to enter the fifth dimension. Um, because that's what we're about to do. So let me show you guys. Hold on a second. I'm gonna show you guys what we are looking at here. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like probably I'm not going to be laughing for very long.
Mm,
I'm going to be entering a state of rage
yeah, that's
very shortly.
likely.
It's
So
likely.
what's funny? I came across this randomly. So, I was on Facebook and I'm in a group called Feminism is Cancer, and they they just share memes mostly. But this was something else they shared. It was basically an event from Eventbrite.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give Allison the link so you can look at it.
Ooh, excellent.
Um,
Just
so
what I
if you
wanted.
yeah, I'll drop it in here though, so it's in the Zoom. Okay,
Okay.
and it's taking place November 10th through 15th. So tomorrow's the last day, guys.
Mm.
Last chance to become a
Last chance to get in on
priestess.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, last chance. And
Oh, by the way, are priestesses, do they have to be born women?
well, I was going to make a suggestion later. I think that no, actually. I think that
Mm.
they do appear to be inclusive. So if there are any, people who are feeling really feminine tomorrow, you could probably
Mm.
just go and show up,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that they will be accommodating. So,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, that would be definitely interesting. Not that we're
Yeah.
saying telling anybody to do that. We're just saying that it looks like
No.
they're open to that. So that's good. They're inclusive. They're not
Yes.
exclusionary, shall we say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this. This is this retreat is for female identifying folk.
Yeah,
Okay.
see? Female identifying folks. Obviously. So, and
Hmm.
that doesn't mean you have to present as female. You could just show up wearing, a
A
trucker
lumberjack
hat and
outfit,
some
yeah.
jeans, yeah, and like rocking a big old beard. It's okay cuz those things are just of the material. They're
Mm-hmm.
meaningless. They're not expressing your energy. So you should
Yeah.
be able to be a part of this no matter what you look like, as long as you embrace your true self. So,
You identify as a woman, at least,
yeah,
however transitorily.
and
Okay.
yeah, and identify as a woman. I mean, men are allowed, I think, to come, but they're going to be filling a specific role. So, okay,
No,
so
only two men. Only two men, I'm pretty sure, are allowed to
oh
come to
yeah,
this. And
yeah, they're
they
only
have to
allowing two
fulfill
men.
a very specific role. But I just want to remind everyone we have sort of done a beginning of the fundraiser. So if you can help us out for the month, that's at feedthebadger.com/support. Very much appreciated. I won't do any arm twisting today because I don't know. I don't feel like it.
Well,
No, my inner priestess isn't
yeah,
isn't up to
maybe
the task.
maybe by
Too
the
lazy.
end you'll be
Maybe by
willing
the
to
end, yeah.
yell at
Right.
the audience about not donating, and that will
Eh.
probably work really well. So,
Yeah. I don't know if I want to go there though, because
no,
I don't want to
no.
resemble what's going on. And we've danced around this enough. Maybe put up the
Well, I'd like to just
whatever it is.
explain what it is. Okay, so
Oh yeah, yes, good.
this is why I brought this up. So this is November 10th through 15th, a special event, and it's entitled Priestess Initiation, with the following priestesses: Monique Darling, Taina Ixchel, and Taylor Valdez. Okay,
Mm.
um, priestess initiation, embodying your power with ritual water and yoni awakening. You know what yoni is? Does anyone
Yes, I
know
know
what
what
that
yoni
is?
is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I know. I I
Um.
I, I this sounds like the worst thing ever. No offense to, moon sisters out there, but God, I do not want to awaken Yanni in some kind of public environment.
Well, that is
No
what's going to
thank
be
you.
going on. Awakening the yoni. Okay. Priestess. Yeah.
In male circles they call that like an orgy, but I guess
Ugh.
that doesn't apply when it's women.
It
Only
doesn't.
only if
No.
their penises in the house.
It's pure when it's
Mm.
women. It's simply energy, I think. So this is going to take place in
Oh wait!
Mexico.
A better term for it is circle jerk. That's what they do when men call it.
Oh.
When men do this kind of thing, they call it a circle jerk. They don't pretend that they're getting in touch with their ligum
Yeah.
energy. Okay, all right. Keep going.
All right,
Keep
all
going.
right. So I'm just going to jump ahead here about this event. A priestess is a woman who helps others connect to the divine so they can heal and or actualize their soul's path. Join Monique Darling, Taina Ixel, and Taylor Valdez as we bring you 5 days of magic of ritual priestess initiation, aquahara, which is water massage, surrender, empowerment, and reclamation of your body, your voice, your sexuality, which for some reason they chose to spell wrong, your unique gifts, and your birthright of sisterhood. Because somebody
Wait,
took
birthright of
these things.
sisterhood.
Your
So isn't
birthright
that
of
kind of
sisterhood.
essentialist? Like, it's a birthright. So you become a sister at birth. Isn't that a little essentialist? I don't know. I'm getting the whiff of anti-trans rhetoric here. Well, I'm really souring on this now. But ultimately, everything they said before this is pretty innocuous. Does it really matter if women want to go into the
Woods,
woods and
mountains.
activate their yawnies with 6-inch crystals? No. I mean, it's probably no more offensive than men going into the woods and pounding on drums and doing that kind of thing. It's like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a huge imposition, I think. So, this is not why we're talking about it.
Mm-mm.
We're getting to it. No.
I'm not really attacking anything. I mean,
Mm.
I may laugh at some of the what I think is silly, but like I'm not against it. Like I don't care what what
Yeah.
women do in
If
their
if they
own
left it at
private
this,
time.
like um dancing around the moon pool,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with their ionic energy in a circle
Yeah.
with some repetitive motions between their legs, all of that would not be an issue. No, I don't think anybody's gonna have an issue with that.
Mm-mm.
It's what they describe next. We're getting to it, right? We're getting to it.
I am getting to it. So let me move on here to the next image. Um, I saw this is how I found this post. So this was actually a Facebook post that I
Mm.
screenshotted. I couldn't find like say a website or something. I really wanted to. I found some things, but um, so and you, if you're not watching but you're listening, this is a woman standing on a balcony of a very pretty area, and she is screaming at a man,
With her eyes
and
closed too. Yeah.
with her eyes closed and all that, and the man is just staring past her at the sunset. I can only assume is the sunset.
This is like a
Um,
perfect example of the way the point we're at in our society psychologically. I don't even think they know that they have exactly encapsulated the dynamic between men and women here. Women are screaming, and a man is just simply learning to vibe without caring.
yeah.
Just like I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm not actually engaging or giving you any consequences to your actions. I am simply disappearing quietly from your life.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even realize that this is like they've just perfectly encapsulated the dynamic that's occurring now. And it's really interesting that this is actually I think a representation of what the ideal dynamic between men and women is, and the ideal man is in our society now.
Mm-hmm.
The man is completely self-contained. He is completely unmoved by her anger, her expressions. He is totally capable of just simply ignoring that, or just integrating it or managing it, without being in the slightest affected by her aggressive and cruelty towards him. So essentially, what our society is selecting for is men who simply don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And just because honestly, what is he supposed to do? Like, he cannot tell her. And I know there's a context here, but I think that there's even a context with outside of the context. He can't tell her your behavior is appalling and it is harmful, because that would be holding her to a standard. So he must simply accept whatever she does and manage himself, thereby becoming akin to a god, a superhero, elevating himself morally, ethically, and in terms of his agency well above her, in order to manage everything that she can throw at him. I mean, if you have a person who's pursuing absolute destruction, and the other person has to pursue the ability to completely nullify that destruction, you're creating a saint. Meanwhile, she screams herself into a state of complete dissolving of the self. Like, she has no expectation of controlling herself, no expectation of dealing with her own emotions herself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she looks like a child. How old is she? Probably in her 20s. She looks like she's having a tantrum with daddy.
Yeah.
And that's what we're selecting for. Women who are children, and this is priestess power. Women who are children, and men who are adults. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Have we always done this? Is this new? I don't know. But definitely we're going whole hog on this idea that men have to be able to manage anything women throw at them, but still somehow care about them. I know that's the other thing. I mean, because he's still there. So he has to
Yeah.
be able to tolerate everything she does to him and still be present. Whereas nothing is asked of her. Nothing at all. And like I said, it's like the perfect encapsulation of the dynamic, I guess, that's supposed to be between the genders now. All right.
Yeah, I think in a way. All right, so this was the image that was used to promote the event, and then there's the text that comes with it, and I think that's the part that I'm going to read for you guys, so that you got an idea of what this event is about. And
Before we get into that, I just remind you guys, once again, if you want to send us a message, it's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. So if any of this sparks thoughts in your brain pan, if it opens your third eye, if you're receiving messages from your medium, if you're receiving messages from your spirit guide, please send them through feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right, there you go.
there you
Brian.
go. All right. So, Monique Darling is with Olivia Ecstasis, Peter Peterson in Cabo San Lucas, Baja California. Okay. On day 2 of our priestess initiation, we do one of the most powerful rituals. So they don't only do this. There's a bunch of other stuff too. So it's something I wish everyone in the world could experience. This space happens to be a female-only identified space. This year, I had Peter and Lawrence come in for this session/ritual. I explained that many of us are never given a chance to fully express ourselves. We hold back out of politeness, people-pleasing, survival as a child, or perhaps the person leaves or dies before we are able to say what we needed to say. Or, on the other side, perhaps we have words that we've needed to hear for a very long time, such as, I'm sorry, I love you, I was wrong, etc. This all shows up as unfinished business in your body, and in future relationships, it can hold you back from opening up, trusting, loving full out, etc. Here, each woman is given 5 minutes with a male-bodied presence sitting in front of them. 5 minutes to scream, to rant, to cry, to say the things that they never had a chance to say to a man, to many men, or all of mankind in their lives. They can also ask to have words said to them.
Okay, can I just make a comment here?
Yeah.
No woman has all of mankind in her life. If you use this idea, you're not referring to men at all. You are referring to your stereotypes about men. So essentially what you're doing is you're asking a man to sit down and have stereotypes screamed at him. I mean, could you imagine if white people did that? Yeah, here's our black friend to sit down and we're going to scream black stereotypes at them. Oh, this could be very cathartic. Like, or even imagine, and I've been adjacent to the men's rights community, which is itself sort of adjacent to the manosphere, although I think they're very different directives. Men's rights is about getting people to recognize men's vulnerabilities, whereas the rest of the manosphere tends to just try to deal with it in-house and try to just manage it. So I think it's a very different approach. But I have never in 20 years heard of any male-orientated group that has even floated the idea of like bringing, I don't know, Susan and Lucy into their retreat to sit there while abuse is screamed at them. I can't, my mother was withholding and neglectful. What a bitch. And Susie says, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me apologize for all of womankind. Or maybe you're a matriarchal oppressor. You're responsible for all of the evil archetypes that are, could you imagine it? Like this is the drum circle. You know, you've gone to one of those. This is the Robert Blythe mythopoetic movement. And here's our ritual where we bring two women in to sit down and be screamed at by men. I have no, I can't even imagine any men's group even suggesting it, much less going through with it. And could you imagine what would have happened if the media ever caught wind of something like that? Jesus.
Absolutely, it would be shut down.
There'd be like a nuclear bomb blown
yeah.
up. Like, men would never get away with this. And I don't even think even the men that our society calls the most misogynistic, I don't even think they've even conceived of doing something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get women to come to our event so we can scream abuse at them.
No,
make them take responsibility for womankind.
No, that's not the way men are. So they wouldn't. If anything, even these red pill guys are more likely to blame themselves for
Yes.
and than women, and they would try to
Yes.
like better prepare themselves.
Yeah, they're more likely to take responsibility on themselves. They're more likely to be Peter here listening to this woman's tantrum in front of him.
Yeah.
But it's like ultimately when they talk about screaming at these guys about mankind, there is no mankind in these women's lives. There are individual men and the actions of individual men and their stereotypes about men. So literally they're screaming bigoted abuse at men, and they're going to get some kind of enlightenment out of that? No, you're just descending into hatred. You're like you are not going up. You're going down, lady, with each screamed epithet. And the other thing is that when you talk about mankind in their life, it has nothing to do with individual men. It doesn't even really have to do with the collective actions of men in their life. When they're talking about that, they are talking about how they feel disappointed, or how they haven't been served by men. And usually what that amounts to, when I've listened to women who think like this, is that they have failed to take responsibility for some aspect of their life, which they think men should have solved for them. So the entire concept is basically them saying, I can't take care of this aspect of my life. Why didn't you take care of it for me, men? Which is absolutely beautifully encapsulated by the fact she looks like a child tantruming for her parent, for her daddy to make it all right. Because this is the exact dynamic, and that is not enlightenment. That is regression. And the other thing is male-bodied. So you don't even know if these male-bodied individuals identify as men. They just have to be male-bodied, right?
Yeah.
So a trans woman could do. She's male-bodied, right? Just as long as it has a penis, it's deserving of abuse. Again, really essentialist there. Really biologically reductive. And I say that because I know that they have that standard of questioning, but they don't ever really do it. They don't really go very far with it. It's like they do think, like a lot of these people with this mentality who talk about patriarchy, who have these kind of ideological focuses, will say things like, oh, we are post-gender binary, and then immediately create a gender binary. Except their gender binary isn't based on things like pink or blue. It's based on the idea that men are to blame and women are victims. Or, sorry, men are to blame and not anything that is not man is their victim.
Yeah.
All right. I really drove that into the ground. So I'll let you
That's
continue.
all right. All right. So let's get back to the little write-up they did that explains what this is in a little bit of depth. So here, each woman is given 5 minutes with a male-bodied presence sitting in front of them, 5 minutes to scream, to rant, to cry, to say the things that they never had a chance to say to any man, many men, or all mankind in their lives. They can also ask to have words said to them. The beauty of this space is that it's no longer Peter or Lawrence sitting in front of them. It is now their dad, an ex, their abuser, a brother, a boss, the patriarchy, etc. Yeah, like the physical representation of the patriarchy. Do you have to? Can you wear like a costume? Like if I'll do it, but I want to wear a
Only if I get to
costume.
get a costume.
Yeah, like I'm, a three-piece suit, one of those
A giant.
one of those watches that has a chain on it, a
Yeah.
monocle, a big mustache, and a top hat, and maybe a bag of money, like a bag with a dollar sign on it.
You get okay, but you also have to definitely twirl your mustache and
Yeah,
keep it delightfully.
of course, I have to twirl it, and a cigar or a pipe. Either one of those are fine.
Pipe is usually associated more with good. Uh,
Is
a
it?
cigarello, a cigarello.
Oh, like getting a cigarette, but like on the long end of a holder, like
Yes.
the penguin.
Oh, that's super evil.
Um, that is pretty evil. But then, like, it feels a little effeminate. So I feel like he should be, capable as
Well,
beating his wife. I think that's really important. So
no,
maybe,
they actually despise aspects of femininity in men. Like if
yeah.
these guys actually stood up and said, I am actually having a traumatic experience from this, from watching a woman yell at me. It's bringing up memories of my mother violently
Mm-hmm.
abusing me. They wouldn't like that. They wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
like to have these men come as full human beings with vulnerabilities. Are you kidding? That
Yeah.
would probably make them melt down even more. Because as much as these women apparently hate abusive men, they hate vulnerable men even more. I mean, I know that this is true because look at the situation with Rihanna's support. And you may not be aware of this, but Rihanna has put her support behind Johnny Depp. And she's gotten a lot of backlash for it, despite being a survivor or a victim of domestic violence herself. I know a lot of people hate the word
Oh,
survivor.
Chris Brown? Is that what we're
Yeah,
talking
Chris
about?
Brown.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now I don't know if there's more complexity to it, but regardless, what we saw was pretty cut and dried. So,
Mm-hmm.
but what's really interesting about this whole situation is it almost feels like Chris Brown has been allowed to get on with his life in a way, but not Johnny Depp. It's because
Mm-hmm.
people like this, people who are part of this ideological sphere, use terms like patriarchy and the evils of mankind and all of this toxic masculinity. They actually despise male victims and male vulnerability more than male aggression and male abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So Johnny Depp is more despised than Chris Rock because Johnny Depp
Chris
challenges
Chris Brown?
Chris Brown. Sorry, Chris Brown.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just saying, Chris
Thank you for
Rock.
correcting.
He was abused by Will Smith on TV, but it's got nothing to do with this. So,
Yeah,
all right,
nothing
go
to
ahead.
do. Okay, Chris Brown. So they actually are more comfortable with the Chris Browns of the world, the abusers of the world. This ideology is more comfortable with them, which may go a long way to explain why it tracks so many.
Mm-hmm.
And but they are far less comfortable with Johnny Depp because it challenges the narrative. And it doesn't just challenge the narrative of women as victims, it challenges these women to actually grow the fuck up and
Mm-hmm.
stop seeing men as their universal daddies, like
Mm-hmm.
their ultimate, like I don't know, like a vending machine where they go up to, and every time they have a problem they hit a button and that comes out with a solution. They're infinitely strong, infinitely agentive, so they can, these men are basically like a genie that can do anything for them, but only ever does what they ask, which is actually, incidentally, if you've ever watched 3000 Years of Longing, I swear to God, the people who created that were making a statement about the relationship between men and women, but I digress. Anyway, so that's what male vulnerability actually forces these women out of their comfort zone and into a space where they have to start to develop skills that they never knew that they had. And that is an uncomfortable process. So they actually hate vulnerable men and men who are victims more than anyone else.
Mm. Mm-hmm. That
I'm
makes a
just
lot of
saying,
sense. Makes a lot of sense.
if they really wanted, if these priestesses really wanted to be empowered, maybe they'd actually open up to understanding how men are vulnerable. Because you really can't talk about women's strength without having a conversation about men's vulnerabilities. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I
but
find it
then
freaking, yeah.
it's no longer about them anymore. It's
I
about
know, well, no,
somebody
it's
else.
still about them, Brian. It just includes someone else.
That sounds hard. All right.
Uh,
So, all right, back to this write-up thing that they did.
yeah, I know. I consumed the
It's not, no,
conversation.
it's okay. I mean, it's not long. So, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
it's just a couple of paragraphs or whatever.
it's a launching point for ranting.
Yeah. So, the beauty of this, I already read that part. It's very intense. The group is
Oh no, you
sitting.
didn't read that part.
No, the beauty
No,
of
you
this
did. You did.
space
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's no longer Peter.
It's short, but it manages to repeat itself a lot. Okay, keep
Mm-hmm.
going.
It's very intense. The group is sitting in circle and feeling everything with each woman as they have their turn, moving all that energy for the group as well. I'm so grateful for Peter and Lawrence to be willing to be of service this way, who have done the work to allow all this energy to just move through them, to be able to just show up in service, taking nothing personally.
No, no. Okay, well, here's it. Here's what's really interesting because this sets up a dichotomy. I don't know if you guys picked this up. Peter and Lawrence are doing the work. They are
Mm-hmm.
developing the emotional skills. They are doing real emotional labor. Is allowing someone to just scream their ass off at you as you just try to ignore it and not take it personal is emotional labor. So they're the ones that are actually advancing in their skills and abilities and their personal strength. You would
Mm-hmm.
think in a retreat that's about developing your personal strength, these women would be like, hey, wait, Peter and Lawrence are developing their personal strength. What are we developing? Nothing. You're developing nothing. You're developing your indulgence. You're developing your reliance on others. You're developing your incapacity. You're developing your own insecurities. You're developing no means to actually deal with this stuff yourself. If they're dealing with it for you, you are not dealing with it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even see how this actually is beneficial to the women because you're expressing your emotions about a person to a person who isn't that person. And not
Yeah.
only that, but you're indulging nonsense like, oh, I have to express my discontent with mankind in my life. You mean your stereotypes about men and your expectations of what men should have done for you in your life. Like that's not even going to get you anywhere. That's going to get you backwards. So what is it that these women are learning? How are they becoming stronger? The answer is they aren't. It'd be better for these women to actually learn what Peter and Lawrence are learning. Maybe sit there and have a man scream at you about what his mother did to him, or his ex-girlfriend, or his ex-wife, or his female boss, who tempted to get him drunk and rape him or something. Have men scream about the injustices in family law that they have to face, the fact that they are conscripted and women aren't, and all of this other inequality that they have to face. Have men scream this shit at you, and then you learn how to manage your emotions in response, how to be balanced, how to just let it flow through you and not take it personally, and how to stand up to someone not being polite to you, not being courteous to you, not being I don't know, whatever else to you. Do you think that Peter and Lawrence have ever had a space where they got to do that to women? No.
No way.
And because they've never had a space that they've got to do that to women, they've always had to manage their own emotions, which is freaking hilarious when they say that, oh, these men, we're going to express all of our anger and hatred to these men who did us wrong. Well, yeah, there are abusive men out there, but the men don't get any space, any legitimate space to express their frustration or anger without it being claimed to be abusive or claimed to be criminal, usually criminal. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is Peter and Lawrence's space? Where do they get to do this? It doesn't exist. They just get to be strong for you. And the other thing that I want to mention is that I find the term patriarchy so fascinating because the women like this in this ideological space will call it patriarchy every time men fail to live up to their expectations and how they feel they are just they how they expect to be benefited. That's patriarchy. Every time men fail to live up to their expectations. But here we got Peter and Lawrence, who are living up to their expectations, who are affording them something men do not get categorically. Sorry, ladies, they don't get a legitimate place to express their anger and frustration at women, because every time that they do, it's abusive or it's criminal, or right now, apparently it's terroristic. Like literally, these are terrorists, be considered to be terrorists. So men don't get this space that Peter and Lawrence are affording these women at all. You know, they don't get it. Oh, sorry, my husband just walked in, so I forgot. I lost my train of thought. He's bringing me lunch, so.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
well, that's okay. I did get a couple of super chows.
Oh! I got my thought. It came back to me.
All right, go ahead.
Just as soon as my husband brought me lunch, it was the patriarchy thing. So when men do things for women, what they want, what those specific women want, they call it feminism. So men and Peter and Lawrence are expressing feminism, even though it's men giving women something that men don't get themselves. You see what I'm saying? So when men fail to give women what women want, it's patriarchy. But when men like Peter and Lawrence give women what they want, it's feminism. But it's always changing, because next year Peter and Lawrence will be seen as, I don't know, engaging in benevolent sexism, which will suddenly become patriarchy again.
Yeah.
See, it's a moving target.
Yeah.
But it's always men giving this stuff to women. And women judging whether or not it's good enough. And if it isn't good enough, it's patriarchy. If it is good enough, men weren't responsible because, you know, just it was feminism. The only winning move is not to play for men.
True. It is true.
All right.
So I got a couple of super chows. So one from Anonymous for $25. They didn't write anything. So I don't know if that was meant to be like a donation to the fundraiser or what. But thank you.
Super chow is separate from the fundraiser. That's just to send message through. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they didn't write anything, and they gave us 25. So the Great Indoors gives us $5 and says, "I'm getting Raven Moon Dragon vibes." Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think Raven Moon Dragon is this bad.
No. Well, I don't know. Maybe she could be. Something. Oh yeah. You know, last Thursday during the show I did with Hannah and Lauren, Lauren went on this whole like Valley Girl, you know, rant, and it was really, really hilarious. Encino?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they called it. Like, it was too good. But she's from Encino or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, she did a great job on that. I was cracking up. So where was I? I'm so grateful, right, for these two men that were willing to essentially make this sacrifice. I'm also so grateful to all the women for bringing it full on, for not holding back, for releasing so much by saying what's not being said. I'm deeply honored to be able to curate and co-lead these spaces with Taina, Excel, Jorda, Sid, and Taylor Valdez. May all beings find space to be heard and witnessed on even the toughest things in their lives.
Again, I had, in 20 years of being part of the men's rights movement, or being adjacent to the men's rights movement, because I didn't identify as a men's rights advocate for a while. I was just interested in the issues. So there was some, you know, like overlap, but I have never heard of any male group even propose the idea of having two women come in so they could scream at them.
Yeah.
Like, and much less scream at them about matriarchy. And I can only imagine what would happen if the media found out about something like that. Like, this is not something that is allowed for men. Every time men express their anger or frustration towards women, it's basically seen as abusive or criminal, or now it's seen as potential terrorism. So it's like, they say, may all beings find space to be heard. Oh, well, there are two beings here who probably know that they would never get the reverse. At least they must know it on a subconscious level. Which, I mean, what's going on through their heads, in their heads, as this happens, as they receive all this frustration and anger? And how is it that women continue to believe that they can't express this stuff?
I don't
Like,
know. I don't know
I,
why they still think this is like something secret and forbidden, and like I'm
because
like,
yeah,
but women do
immediately
this.
counts.
They do it all the time.
Yeah, like our entire show, we don't even aren't even able to respond to all of the articles about women expressing their frustration and anger towards men. Like, it's
Yeah.
constant. Like, this seems to be this constant damn drumbeat, and they all seem to think that they can't do it as they do it in a
Mm-hmm.
constant stream that would not put
Mm-hmm.
Niagara Falls to shame. It's like
Yep.
it's always the same thing. Yeah, we're expressing our anger and frustration to men, which we're not allowed to do, and yet you have a gigantic platform to do it.
Multiple gigantic platforms.
Multiple gigantic platform
Yeah.
to do it. While you have two men willing to allow you to get the space to be strong for you to deal with your anger and frustration in something that they would themselves would never get.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are any of these priestesses volunteering to be Lawrence or Peter's scream dummy?
No. I no.
Screaming bad?
They're too busy preparing the
The
tantric,
yawning?
yeah, yoni uh rituals. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that's what the other events are. They're all like, you know,
Goofy. But
exercises for your womb or something. Which I wouldn't care about any of that. It's the blaming men thing
yeah.
that bugs
Well,
me.
it's the mankind, screaming at
Yeah.
patriarchy,
Yeah.
which basically, like, as far as I can tell, that's just basically wherever you think men haven't benefited you enough,
Mm-hmm.
or you think men are responsible for saving you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some cases, I mean, it's individual men who abuse. It's not patriarchy. So I don't know
Right.
how that doesn't even make sense. There's no secret cabal of men training each other to be abusive. It's a cycle, okay, that has nothing to do with general social mores, except that we ignore the fact that men are abused, therefore we don't give them the services necessary to resolve it. We don't look at it like, but to use rape as an example, which they would probably say, oh yes, men raping women is patriarchy. It's patriarchy making men do that, which is
Mm-hmm.
bullshit. It's not. There's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no scientific evidence for this. And yet there is, like, people do study like causal factors for why men rape women. And the ones that are seen most consistent is childhood trauma. And then
Yeah.
if you look at genetic factors, having gene markers for antisocial personality disorder, which involves impulse control problems. So if there is a correlation between men and rape, it's not because normal men are promoting it or creating a culture that encourages it or benefit from it at all. It's because we tell boys who have been abused sexually, often sexually, with cognitive deficits and impulse control problems, that them having been raped is a gift. Maybe we should stop doing that. We might see a reduction in men who go on to rape women. Maybe that might be a good thing to do. But no, we've got this whole ideological sphere that seems hell bent on obfuscate,
Help
obfuscate. Yeah.
obfuscate
Yes, that.
or obfuscating.
Yes, obscute,
Ob
muddling,
few
ah,
ob
obfu,
few
obfuscating,
skate. Yes.
obfuscating, obfuscating, and muddling and muddying the waters when it comes to these social issues, so that they can blame men as a group.
Mm-hmm.
And and as they do this, they actually make sure that the number of female victims never declines, and in fact increases.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, we have people in this ideological sphere who are responsible for removing therapeutic interventions that would have reduced the rate of rape and domestic violence against women in favor of promoting their own ideology. Now, if there's any social pressure that's increasing the rate of domestic violence and rape against women, it's feminism. It's feminism's abject desire to promote feminism versus interventions that actually reduce the rate of those things, because those interventions aren't consistent with its ideology, with its belief system, with its narratives. Okay?
Yeah.
So and then these women just scream at men for this. It's a mess, and nobody's getting enlightened from this. None of you are getting enlightened. None of you are opening your third eye. None of you are becoming better people. None of you are becoming stronger or more competent. And I honestly, I don't know what's going on in Lawrence and Peter's brains. They're probably addicted to an identity of strength relative to women and saving women, even if they won't consciously express it. They're probably there because they know that they're saving you, that they are stronger than you are, that it is another way to develop strength that you don't have, ladies. So that they can, in the deepest, darkest recesses of their soul, feel superior to you at the same time as simping, which has got to be, it's the worst kind of self deception. You know, I'm sure that Peter and Lawrence aren't dangerous, but this whole dynamic creates some pretty dangerous men.
Yeah, it does. It does. I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm obviously not going to make any assumptions because those guys are likely, making to some degree
Something
quite
is
the
filling in the
sacrifice,
gap.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Something is filling in the gap here, ladies. Like when you see men who are doing this, who are doing all this emotional labor, and they know that they would not get the reverse. Like, where did Peter and Lawrence get to scream at some priestesses about how the matriarchy did them wrong? Nowhere. So they're not getting, so something is filling in that gap. Now, it may be that Peter and Lawrence, what's filling in the gap is men's natural instinct to provide and protect for women. That'll go a long way. But for some men, what's filling the gap is a narcissistic addiction to saving women. And when they don't get it, oh boy, can they get violent.
Yeah.
So, be careful. Like, I'm not going to say that Peter and Lawrence are like that, but you might find in one of your retreats that you don't luck out with a Peter or Lawrence. You end up with a certain, shall we say, a lesser quantity of man who's willing to listen to you scream at him as long as you provide something in return. And the moment you don't, guess what's going to come right out?
Yeah.
All the shit you expected him to swallow. And I've seen it happen. So, and you'll have invited him in. All right.
All right. Well, that was enlightening. Any what?
Enlightening.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Cool.
were you asking me like about Super Chow? Let me see.
No, there doesn't seem to be any new super chow. Hey guys, send in
No.
some super chows. This is good content. I think it's good. We really dug into the meat
You
of the
can
matter.
you can take like the simplest. Well, I wouldn't say this is necessarily simple, but it's something that could easily have just been dismissed and just be whatever. It's people, weird hippies in like Southern California being weird, but because it does involve women shouting at men to help them, I don't know,
Overcome
like,
patriarchy.
yeah, overcome patriarchy or their own pasts or whatever, which I don't think works anyway, but um but then I think
Generally,
that it's adding to a larger problem.
yeah.
That's why I think this is important to point out and discuss, because it's contributing. It's like the blob, and like you give it a little something and it gets a little bit bigger and it starts demanding more, so
Yeah.
um and
Well,
like
here's the thing.
yeah, go ahead.
It's damaging to the relationship between men and women to do stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that this is beneficial at all, because they're not screaming at a man, they're screaming at men,
Yeah.
which doesn't mean anything. It means you're projecting all of your inadequacies and insecurities and the things that you don't think you need to address in yourself as a woman onto this guy, and you're screaming at yourself, but you won't acknowledge that
Mm-hmm.
because you have a scapegoat. Well, you're not going to go anywhere with that. And the other thing is that this entire situation invites, eventually, it will invite very unsavory men into your
Oh, for
safe
sure.
space. Because,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that Peter and Lawrence are unsavory, but there will be a guy who's doing this, and there is something other than his instinct to provide and protect for women that's fueling it. And it will
Yeah.
be in a narcissistic addiction to saving women. And the instant you refuse him or deny him, you'll see the violence inside of that whole concept. And again, I'm not saying Peter and Lawrence are necessarily like that guy, but the more you open yourself up to stuff like this, the more likely you are to find one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that maybe these practices attract
Mm-hmm.
damaged people.
Oh yeah.
So, some of them, many of them are going to be women, and they're going to like eat it from the inside out and, create drama and division and anything that'll get them some attention. And yeah, there will also be men,
Mm-hmm.
that are just not, they're broken,
Yeah.
and they're, I don't know. I just don't think it's the best
No,
way
it's they're
forward.
playing with
So,
stuff that they shouldn't, is
yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah, you're playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
I got a super
Both
chat.
sides. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I got a super chat from Duncan Alexander who gives us 55 czars. Thank you. And he says, "What are you drinking, Allison?" It's
Earl Grey.
it's tea.
Hot.
Yeah.
I don't,
I
wait, wasn't Earl Grey hot that Picard did?
This was Folgers, uh,
Folgers
but
in
it's
my cup.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it Earl Grey hot that Picard requested?
Oh, did he Earl Grey hot? Yeah, I think that's right.
I just wonder, how did the replicator one day just be like, yeah, here's some Earl Grey, but it's
Cold.
chilled.
It's
Yeah,
room
cold. It's like,
temperature.
it's room temperature. It's piss temperature. Here you
Yeah.
go. And he was like, no, I'm gonna specify from now on.
Yeah, I can see that.
Earl Grey hot. Yeah, that's what I'm drinking. Earl Grey hot. Okay. So we got
um,
a super chow too.
Super Chow, really? Okay, hold on.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Techna gives us $20. Thank you, Techna, and says maintaining frame number 34. Joined late. Probably was already said before. Most people scream into a void because they are aware what is being on the receiving end can feel like, I guess, at that emotional distress. These women aren't even aware of that. Well,
Okay,
they
so what
don't.
he's saying,
Yeah, like, but most people.
most people scream into a void. Like I do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could find it helpful. But what were you gonna say, Brian, before I cut you off?
No, I was gonna say, like, I understand it. Like, I get frustrated and I just shout. Not too often, but it does happen. And but I'm not shouting at anyone. I'm not even blaming anyone most of the time.
Mm.
I'm usually blaming myself.
Mm.
For like, unless I'm just really unlucky or something. And
Mm.
uh yeah, so that's all I was saying, is that most people do that, and they're not, it's not aimed at anyone. It's not even about blame, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly about, like I said, just bad um circumstances. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do, like, I understand sort of where they're coming from with this exercise. Um
mhm.
because I've done, I guess, woo therapy, where you imagine the person who's wronged you and you express what you need to express to them. So I understand where that's sort of coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Where this starts to get really scary is that they're expressing it to a specific person. Like, you're not, I mean, no matter how much these men think they've done the work, what they're saying is either they're men who can be screamed at by women and feel nothing, which is like, when I was saying that, there's something filling the gap here. You got to think about this, ladies, for a second. You're
Mm-hmm.
inviting men who can watch you scream and cry and tear your hair out and express the worst emotions and feel nothing. Like, don't you realize that that may end up backfiring on you,
Yeah.
like, in a big way? And again, I'm not saying Peter and Lawrence, but that's also what you're promoting in men. And this is what I find interesting about feminism. You are promoting men who can listen to your diatribes, your shaming, your screaming, your screeching, your crying, your haranguing, and just out of sheer self-preservation, feel absolutely nothing. That's the kind of men you're promoting in the world. That's going to bite us in the ass eventually.
Yep.
Most likely is starting to, because either men completely check out because they don't like. I mean, when you think about MGTOW, they were like, "Oh my God, they're such misogynists." But men, in response to feminists saying we want men who can endure all of our expressions of anger and hatred and bile and shaming, where they can endure it without a peep. Well, what you're literally selecting for is men who are completely unmoved by your emotional expressions. And in the face of that, that's your expectation now as women. In the face of that, MGTOW are like, I think we're leaving. That's
Yep.
actually a pretty healthy response. The men who stay and say, hey, yeah, I can give you that, ladies. You can express any emotion you want. You can express any anger, any distress, any crying, and I will remain completely unmoved. And I love
Mm-hmm.
it that you love me more for it. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of man, that's what you're selecting for. Might not like the results. Of course, you
Mm.
blame men for it.
Well, as long as it gives them the ability to blame men for it, I guess it's worth it. Uh,
Yeah.
no, I know it's probably not a good idea, but
It's not a good
I'm
idea.
looking at their logic. We did
Yeah.
get a Rumble. What do you call them? I call them Rumble rants, but I don't think that's what they are. NobaFan21 gave us $1 and says, I was wondering where the idea of men being responsible for women came from. It sounds like it came from the late 19th century for wives, but if society is changing faster than maybe it came before. I mean, I think it's really old.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
it's
really, really,
evolved.
yeah, it's changed in ways like there's,
The social element.
but even before, I would guess that even before language, there was an expectation that
Mm-hmm.
men would be responsible for women's safety. So even before we were able to talk about it, we were doing it. It was an instinct, I think.
Before we became humans, it's because
Yeah.
the ancestor we share with chimps was most likely a parabon. Was, according to the anthropological record, was a parabonder. So chimps split off and became whatever they are now. So before we were even human, this instinct was there.
Mm-hmm.
And this instinct is in every social male mammal, or bird,
Mm-hmm.
is to take care of the female. Now birds are more mutual because they lay eggs, but with mammals, it's like that instinct becomes a lot more prevalent with social mammals. Those are the mammals that females actually need some form of provisioning or alloparenting to get their offspring to adulthood. Alloparenting is parenting by anybody other than the mother. Um, so when you have that kind of selective pressure, the male animals do start to instinctually protect the
Mm-hmm.
female animals. And it's driven by the fact that the female has dependencies on the male. So, for example, in herd species, there's dependencies in terms of protection. So when a predator comes and threatens a herd species, the stallions or the bulls or the males of that species will insert themselves between the predator and the rest of the herd. So there's that protection instinct. And then, for example, with wolves, which emotionally are very close to us, which is why we have such a compatible relationship with dogs. Um, the male animals, like the male wolves, will protect the female, the breeding female.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the other females. The other females are usually also involved in defense and provision, but they will, and they have instincts to protect the female, and instincts to provide food for her, you know. But having said that, female wolves are very independent. Like they
Mm-hmm.
can survive on their own. They can hunt for themselves. They are made dependent when through the process of reproduction and taking care of the puppies, but on their own, they're completely independent. That's not the case for human women. We are the most dependent female animal on the planet. And what I
Yeah.
like to use as an analogy is if we were like a female, like a tigress, we were a female tiger, like we would literally be able to operate at the level of a Navy SEAL up to the moment we give birth, squat down, give birth, and then go on to kill Osama bin Laden. Like it would just be that we would be that physically independent. If we were even like the level of a wolf, a female wolf, we would be able to keep hunting up to the moment that we give birth, and then for about a couple months we'd be off, nursing the puppies, taking care of the little infants, and then we'd be back on, like,
Mm-hmm.
hunting again, after a couple months. There these We are the most dependent, which
Yeah.
means correspondingly, because mother nature doesn't create dependent females without something to compensate, like then you just end up with a dead species, right?
Mm-hmm.
So conversely, because female humans are so dependent relative to other female animals, that doesn't mean that they don't themselves do things, because it ends up being more of a codependence in the end, or a interdependence. Men have evolved instincts to provide and protect for women well above any other male animal on the planet. That's
Yeah.
where society comes from. I don't know if you've noticed that. you know
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the work of society comes from. And there's an interdependence here, of course, because women are also, up to like the 70s, were doing an incredible amount of work in the home. But
Mm-hmm.
so there's an interdependence there. But yeah, men, this has evolved. Like men's desire to protect and provide for women has evolved. That's why this works. Like what they're doing here often works. Like they're bringing in men who have managed to figure out how not to express their upset when a woman is screaming at them, or how not to be present, or to internalize it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what Peter and Lawrence are of course leaning on is their instincts to provide and protect for women. They know that they're somehow helping these women and making their lives better, so they're able to endure the depredations of this experience for these women. But
Yeah.
and this is the only reason why this actually works, 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, these priestesses are going to have men who are motivated by providing and protecting for women. It's just that what they're doing is more likely to find that 1 out of 10 who's there because he's a psycho, you know and so they're selecting for that. And that's going to become more often, as Peter and Lawrence's of the world realize, why am I doing this?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not even told if I'm doing the right thing. I mean, here at the very least, they're saying, thank you, Peter and Lawrence, for doing this. So you got that. At least they're thanking them. But in a lot of cases, the Peter and Lawrences of the world are faced with women who not only expect them to do this, they expect them to do this without any gratitude, or and even more than just gratitude, without any understanding that what they're doing is the right thing. So when feminists do this, they want a Peter or Lawrence to endure them screaming at them, and they want Peter and Lawrence to endure it without any gratitude and without any explanation that they're doing the right thing. So what is that selecting for? It's selecting for a man who can endure all of your expressions or without being moved, all of your tears, all
Mm-hmm.
of your recriminations, all of your embarrassment, embarrassing him, all of the shaming and the guilt, without being moved by it at all, and then doesn't even know if he's doing it for the right reasons. What the hell is that selecting?
Yeah.
Like, eventually you're basically putting a loaded gun to your head, ladies. And you're like, click. Oh, I didn't die. Better put another bullet in the chamber. Click. Oh, I didn't die. I better put another bullet in the chamber. Click. Oh, I didn't die. Better put another bullet in the chamber. Click. I didn't die. Better put another click. Boom. You lose your half your face and blame patriarchy. It's like, what are you doing? You're really playing with fire. But like it will work out for them for as long as they express gratitude to Peter and Lawrence, and as long as they actually tell Peter and Lawrence that they're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Peter and Lawrence will simply lean on their desire to protect and provide for women, and it'll probably work out until they get, what's a good
Yeah.
psycho name?
Norman
Norman.
Bates.
Yeah, well, Norman
Oh,
Bates
until they get
yeah, who's a psycho from American Psycho? That guy, Chris.
oh, you're talking about Patrick Bateman.
Yes,
Yeah.
until they get a Patrick.
Yeah.
They don't get a Peter or Lawrence. They get a Patrick,
Right. Right.
and then Patrick gets in the hen house and has himself a gay old time. And then they blame patriarchy again.
Yep.
Okay, no offense to any Patricks out there.
I do have another super chat.
Yeah.
Back to the Lab gives us £30. Thank you, Back to the Lab.
Thank you, Back to the
And
Lab.
says, keep on trucking HBR. I don't think I've ever seen Back to the Lab before, so this might be like a new viewer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard, Back to the Lab, or thank you for your support if you are a longtime viewer.
Yeah. I just don't have the best memory, so maybe you have been on here before.
I don't remember either, but then I don't understand English very well, so
You don't? Is there a super chat you said?
Oh yeah, there's a super chat. Well, you have to train me to say obfuscate. Remember?
So yeah, I remember, but I mean sometimes words can be hard. I don't know. I didn't want to hold it against you.
I like that. Let's quote it. Brian, words can be hard. I'm not going to hold it.
Words can be hard. Yes. I believe that's true. I mean, I think that, I've been seeing more obscure words lately, and I'm okay with, seeing those. But then the normal words can become challenging for some reason. All right, so The Great Indoors gives us $50 and says, I wonder how the Stoicism as shown by Peter and Lawrence would be interpreted by the author of the blog that was featured on yesterday's fundraiser stream. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Well, yeah, but because these guys are using Stoicism in service of women, it's okay. So,
yeah,
that's what I think anyway.
Honestly, once these women start thinking about benevolent sexism, I think Peter and Lawrence.
Yeah, they'll probably turn on them at some point, but I think that right now that would be the argument to go to if the goal is to essentially like forgive whatever behavior you might be trying to expose as a double standard or something, right? Because they always have an out. That's the thing. Like the language games allow them to just be like, well, in this case, because it benefits women who have been historically oppressed, stoicism in men is good because we don't want them getting upset when women yell at them for shit that they didn't do. And then later, if it becomes no longer convenient or there's something else that would be better to benefit them, then they'll just change their story. And
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
a constantly moving
yeah,
target, which
I mean,
is
you're dealing with
not
just
fair.
frankly dishonest people, and
Hmm.
and that's all it is. They're just dishonest, and it doesn't matter if they're, you know, magical Sailor Moon witches or whatever, or if they're academics, if they are actresses, you know, it doesn't matter. Like they're
Mhm.
basically um, being deceitful on purpose, and
Mm.
sometimes they convince themselves that this is okay to do, right? And that's, you know, that might, I don't know, put people in a position where they got to work around it, but I don't think it's necessary. I mean, generally they're dishonest, or they're either dishonest or they're stupid, and I
Mm.
think that it's probably better to say that they're dishonest.
Mm.
And it's also like not as insulting, but I think that that's true.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just complete blindness, self blindness. I mean, isn't
it
that they're
could
not
be
even being
that,
dishonest?
yeah, it could be that too. Though I guess it depends on how long they've been engaged in the, you know,
Yeah,
in
I
this
mean,
kind of talk. So
ultimately, because they actually express some kind of gratitude, it's not that bad. But like they are playing with fire. And if
yeah.
they start to get even the more radical elements of, oh, men don't even deserve gratitude or even an explanation that they're doing the right thing, um,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't give men gratitude or an explanation that they're doing the right thing, what are you selecting for? You're selecting for men who just do whatever it is they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you're not going to tell them if they're doing the right thing. So, what guide are they? If you're not going to be their guide, like this is what's so hilarious. It's like it's presumed that men benefit women, right? But
Mm-hmm.
feminists, at least in this ideological sphere, they want men to benefit women without even knowing that they're benefiting women. Well, how? Like, and what kind of men does that select ultimately? If you refuse to actually even express gratitude or a clear understanding of your expectations of men. I mean, it either selects men who are like, you know what, I'm just going to opt out because I don't know if I'm going to be like, do I know if I'm going to be harming you? I can't even know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
even going to tell me that I'm doing the right thing, how do I know I'm harming you or not? So some men are like, I'm done. I'm out. And then there are men who are just going to live under those terms and just be confused to the point of depression and suicide and eventual self-immolation. And then there are the men who are just not going to care. Like they just never cared. They don't care if they're doing the right thing for you, ladies. So and what's
Yeah.
hilarious is like this is the next level of insanity because to even conceive of a society without considering men's benefit or what men need even to keep producing this society is ridiculous. So that itself just completely stripping everything down to how society benefits women, which is the essence of feminism. That's what it was defined to be by its founder, by the person who coined the term, is
Mm-hmm.
basically judging society by how well it benefits women. I mean, even that is insanity. But now there's another layer of it, which is we're going to judge men by how well they benefit women, but we're not going to tell them if they're benefiting women or not
Mm-hmm.
because they may feel like that's an expression of gratitude or they could feel good about themselves. What? I mean, it's insanity that's so deep, it's hard to comprehend. That's my conclusion.
Yeah.
But at least they're not at that level of insanity. They're not asking themselves, hey, wait a second. These guys don't get their turn screaming at women. And they're developing skills that we won't have as women as a result. Like if you don't contend with men's vulnerabilities, if you don't contend with how men have been hurt by women, you're never going to develop those skills that Peter and Lawrence have developed in contending with those things coming from women. So Peter and Lawrence are by definition stronger than the women in this. That's patriarchy,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
and like these women are not contending with that fact and not looking at the implications of it.
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that if they're not gaining those forms of strength, how are they empowering themselves? How are they becoming better? How are they enlightening? They're not. They're
Right.
just leaning on men again because because they're upset that the last time they leaned on men it didn't work out for them, so they're going to lean on men again. You know,
Yep.
why don't you try something new, ladies?
What is the
Uh,
definition of insanity?
mm-hmm.
Um. So, what?
I
What?
think we're. I
I
think
think
we're.
we're good. I
We've had
think
a
we
good
are.
run.
Yeah,
I
went
got to do a
for
short.
an hour and a half. So we'll
I have to do a short. I'm going to do a short on Courtney Clenny. The
again.
defense. Yes, the defense has come out with put out some evidence. She has some bruises, so they're going to
Oh
claim
my god.
self-defense. Yeah,
Oh my
and
god.
there's a possibility she'll get off too
Yeah.
because she got a few bruises.
Oh no.
It couldn't. She couldn't be bruised because she was stabbing someone and they fought back. No,
No. 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 No.
that has
Obviously
to be
not.
self-defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess yeah, we're gonna close it out
Right.
here, guys.
I'll just
Um.
remind everyone that if you want to give us a tip afterwards, because this will be staying up, you can go to feedthebadger.com/just the tip. We get the most benefit from that. Very appreciated. Uh, Go ahead, Brian.
No, that's good. So yeah, once again, if you guys like this video, please smash the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think about what we talked about. Are you a witchy woman? If you are, have you ever heard of anything like this? Maybe you know something that I don't. And yeah, feel free to share
I
it.
will say one thing about like New Age, not like the Diana cult stuff, but there's some of it that actually respects masculinity and masculine
Mm-hmm.
energy, which
Yeah,
I thought
sure.
was good, But
Well, I'm not
why don't you
saying.
do more of that? What were you gonna say, Brian?
Oh,
I
I was
I
just
know
gonna.
you don't like the woo, but
No, no, no. It's not that. I was just gonna say, like, I don't think that. Um, like, I'm not. It's not a condemnation of any of that.
yeah.
Like, I'm basically just saying, like, uh, I guess you can find stuff like this anywhere. It's just gonna
Hmm.
be repurposed, like for whatever, like,
Yeah. It's basically
belief
what you're
system,
finding.
or yeah, it's just that. I'm not saying that because I know people who are a bit wooish too. So um
We say the word woo with love.
yeah,
Yeah.
but and that's why I said, if there are people who are watching that know about something about that, maybe they would like to say something. So
Yeah.
Albatross, by the way, gave us $5, another super chat, and says, priestesses, the best relationship in a one-sided relationship.
Oh yeah, there was one more comment. You know why they're doing this priestess thing? It's a hierarchy. Because
Mm-hmm.
before it's about the goddess, but the goddess you embody it, or you have a direct relationship with the goddess. Now there's these priestesses apparently that intercede, but I guess that's because the allure of hierarchy. We can't be
Yeah.
independent actors. We have to have other women act on our behalf. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. That probably is the case. I don't really know how it works, which is why
Mm.
I'm like open to learning. So, but anyhow, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about in the show today. And most importantly, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. And we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.